So, what are we gonna do today?
We're gonna make fabric
From?
from this.
That's cotton.
That's cotton.
I know what cotton is.
Do you though?
Okay, so here's why the cooking show format. For the past few weeks, we've been trying to tell you the difference between fiber and fabric. And low-key, it's been coming out like a lecture, and no one wants to listen to a lecture. And then we were cooking, and it hit. How fibers, just like vegetables and different cooking ingredients, are so versatile when mixed with different ingredients, they give such varied results. Just like potato.
One ingredient, cut it, boil it, mash it, slice it. Different textures, different elements, and so many different uses. Same ingredient, different dishes, different techniques, different outcomes, different cultural context, and price points too. Cotton is exactly that.
So, you mean the potato fabric world?
I mean, I guess. Hence, the cooking format. Every good cook starts by introducing the ingredients. Not the dish, but surely the ingredient. Our ingredient for today is cotton, obviously. The fluffy bit, that's the fiber. It's the seed hair of a cotton plant, essentially. The fiber is made around the seed to protect it. But we decided there were other uses of it. You obviously can't wear it. You cannot weave it, so it has to be processed first. In cooking terms, that's like a raw potato, just dug up, unwashed, yet to decide what it will be made into. Now that we have introduced our ingredients, in cooking, prep is everything. You don't just pick up a raw potato, put it in a pan, and call it a dish. You have to wash it, peel it, cut it, make something out of it to actually call it a dish. It's the same with the cotton. There's a whole process that goes behind to actually make it into something that can be worn or used. Stage 1, where we separate the seeds from the fiber. By hand, extraordinary slow. Now, even by machine.
Which is called ginning.
The cotton gin machine has mechanized this, sped it up enormously, and changed the economics of cotton entirely. In cooking terms, ginning is like peeling the potato. You have to do it, it's not glamorous, but someone has invented a machine to make the process less tedious.
The cotton gin is the potato peeler.
Yes, actually.
I'm getting the hang of this.
Stage 2 or carding. This is where all the fibers are arranged in the same direction. In cooking terms,
Getting the ingredients ready before you cook, everything in its place. Same thing, right?
right. Stage 3 spinning. This is where this whole mass is taken and twisted into yarns. The first major decision is also made here. Depending on how tightly, how softly, or how fine you twist the fiber makes a big difference in the fabric. Fine, lightly twisted spin will give a lighter, more delicate fabric, whereas something which is more thick and structural will make a more sturdy fabric. In cooking terms,
How you cut the potato determines what it becomes. Same fiber, the spin determines what the fabric becomes.
in cooking, you can take the same ingredients and apply completely different techniques. The fabric equivalent of it is probably weaving. You use different weave techniques on the same threads to make completely different fabrics. There are three basic structures: the plain weave, the twill weave, and the satin weave. In different combinations using different ingredients, you can create completely different fabric. Everything else is essentially a variation of plain weave, the most fundamental weave, where the horizontal and the vertical threads go one above the other alternatively. Very simple, very balanced. Usually the fabrics that come out of it are muslin, canvas, voile, etc. All of them use the same basic technique but are different because of the yarns that are used. Basically the thickness of the cut. But structurally they have identical architecture. Twill weave, more complex than the plain weave, where the horizontal threads usually go over two or more vertical threads that create a diagonal pattern. Denim is one of the most obvious twill. You can clearly see the diagonal ridges in the design. That's not a design choice, it's just how the structure of the weave behaves. Lastly, we have the satin weave, where the horizontal threads skip even more of the vertical threads, creating a float on the surface, which creates a more smooth and lustrous feel to the fabric. Cotton satin is slightly shiny, good for bed sheets, shirts, and is actually a satin weave. So that's what weave structures do. They change the perceived value and the effect of the fabric completely without even changing the ingredient at all. So malmal is a plain weave fabric using the finest of the cotton yarns. It is loosely constructed and the result is almost transparent, very lightweight fabric which weighs almost nothing. It is a simple technique which is executed at such a fine level. Dhaka muslin was one of the finest muslins or fabric to ever exist. It used the same technique. It was nearly invisible and it was so sheer and precious that it was also called woven air. Denim is one of the most popular twill weave known to people because you can so clearly see the diagonal patterns that are formed because of the weave. It uses thick yarns and a dense construction which give it that structure, and then it is dyed. There are also different ways in which this dyeing process happens. Traditionally, indigo was used, which is why the blue color. But now there are many different techniques and finishing process that also go in to give you the different variants of denim as well. The canvas as we know it today, one that is used in bags, shoes, tents, and even the canvas that artists use to paint, is also the result of the same weave that is used in muslin. Yes, that above and under weave, the plain weave, the most basic weave. It's just made through such thick yarns and in such a dense construction that eventually it results into a fabric that holds its shape, does not really drape, and also has the maximum density, which results in a very structural fabric. Another fabric that uses plain weave is voile. The yarns of this fabric have a higher twist, the construction is even more loose, and the fabric is even more fluid than a muslin. Cotton voile is used in a lot of summer garments. It's not just aesthetic, it's also very functional. You need coverage and you need not to overheat, and this fabric solves all the problems. It's not only for the beautification, it's also engineering and design that goes behind it. Talking about plain weave, how can we forget about your towels? Your towel is a terry cloth, essentially a variation of plain weave where extra loops are made onto the fabric through yarns so that it becomes more absorbent and helps you dry yourself off. The loops essentially create a surface area which helps in better absorption. The plain canvas or a plain surface cotton fabric will not have the same effect like that of your terry cloth. In the end, it's not just the ingredient, right? Because all of these fabric use cotton, but it's the technique that is adding so much difference. Like, would you have imagined your towel and your jeans being both cotton and yet having such different purposes? You know how we started with the ingredient, right? So now that we have the ingredient, we have the techniques, we have cutted it, used it in different ways, we have also cooked it. So what is left? The seasoning, of course. Similar to the seasoning of a dish, we have finishing in a fabric. A finishing adds that last touch of flavor, the change in the surface, and the experience that you get from using that fabric. Cotton is treated so that the surface becomes shinier and absorbs more dyes. Mercerized cotton is essentially shinier, brighter, absorbs more dye, and also feels a little bit more silky. At the end, it's the same fiber, the same ingredient, the same weave, just different finishes that make it a whole different dish. You know how we discussed that denim was washed and then finished to create these different sort of denim textures? Yeah, so for that, denim is washed with stones to create that worn, faded sort of look. The vintage denim look that is so aspirational is essentially caused by washing off denim with stones in a machine to give that slightly beaten, lived-in effect on the fabric. When we wash fabrics at home, there is usually a bigger chance of them shrinking and then not fitting. So sanforization is a process where even before that garment reaches a factory, it is washed and essentially treated in a way so that it prevents shrinking after you have the fabric in your hands. So it's essentially like a pre-shrinking fabric process which is done mechanically so that once you have it in your hands, the fabric does not shrink.
So I went through my wardrobe last week and most of my clothes said 100% cotton. Now I understand that it holds much more information between the lines. I know what cotton is.
Do you though?
Do you? क्या आपको पता है कॉटन क्या होता है? कॉटन एक आम चीज जो हर कोई यूज करता है, लेकिन सन 1350 में यूरोपियंस को लगता था कॉटन कैसे आता है? क्या आपको पता है?
उनको लगता था ये एक पेड़ पे उगता है, जिस पेड़ के ऊपर बकरियां उगती हैं।